Hello, all. This is Khatija Qureshi, your host for today's KQ show. Today, we are having a Newcomers Women Roundtable, and I planned this session with two amazing newcomer women stories. They are with me right now. They are backstage. I'll be calling them. So a little bit about myself. I'm Khatija Qureshi. I'm an online LinkedIn trainer for newcomers to Canada and transitional job seekers. Also, I'm a social media consultant for small businesses. Also, I'm a very very large newcomer advocate. I feel a lot for newcomers community, and on International Women's Day yesterday, I was like, okay, I have to gather newcomer women and talk about their professional journey and experiences, specifically comparing pre-COVID and post-COVID as a newcomer woman. So yes, we are here. All three of us are here. I have also walked through the path of newcomer and now a settled immigrant. So we all three be talking today about newcomer women, professional journey, and unique challenges which we all face as immigrant women. So I will be calling in my two guests just in a bit. And they will be introducing themselves. So I'm sure you all are jamming in. Do leave it in the comments below where you're joining me from and what are your names. I would love to include you in the conversation. While my other two guests do an introduction, I'll be taking in your comments. So do leave it in the comments below where you're joining me from. Are you intending to come to Canada? Are you a pre-arrival immigrant, already landed immigrant? If you have any questions about as a newcomer woman, if you're facing any challenges, do ask us questions during complete live stream. So be ready for a roller coaster of raw and real honest talk with three newcomer women who are talking all about professional journey and unique experiences to get our skill specific first job here in Canada. So a lot of newcomer women will relate to today's talk. So I will be introducing now our two guests, Anjali and Gretchen. I am calling in Anjali. Welcome, Anjali, to the live stream. Welcome to Newcomers Women Roundtable. So I'm introducing Anjali. She is an inspiring newcomer woman, inspiring story, who has walked through the path of an immigrant woman in Canada to get her first skill-specific job. So we will be jabbing in with Anjali and knowing her story as a newcomer woman to get that foot in the door in her profession. Also joining me in today's stream is Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen. Welcome to the Newcomer Women Roundtable. Gretchen is also another inspiring newcomer woman story, and she will be sharing her unique experiences. So we all three are over here in Newcomer Women Roundtable to share with like-minded newcomer women what experiences you can foresee if you are at a pre-arrival stage, or if you have already landed. You can probably take motivation and inspiration that you're not alone in this journey. So we all are three experienced people. You can ask us questions throughout the stream. I will be taking in comments in two sections. So introducing Anjali. Anjali is a corporate communications specialist, and she walked through a very interesting path of exploring herself, networking, finding her own space and community in Canada to land. Now she's working as a corporate communication professional with a local entity. Also, Gretchen is also a communication specialist. She's working as a documentation training and support officer with a local school board. So welcome, Anjali and Gretchen. I am going to give the podium first to Anjali, followed by Gretchen. Anjali, we would love to know a little bit, briefly, your newcomer story. When did you land? A little bit about your professional journey. And then, Gretchen, we would love to hear you, followed by Anjali. So, Anjali, please, podium is all yours.
Hi, Khadija. Thank you so much for inviting me. I have worked in journalism and corporate communications in the UK and in India. I landed with my husband and my 3-month-old daughter in April 2018, but then we left after 15 days because we just landed, we did our soft landing. But then when we moved, I was 5 months pregnant with my second child. So my husband moved in Jan 2019. He came and he found a job, and then my daughter and I, we came in April 2019 when I was 5 months pregnant. And I wasn't ready to get back into work because no one will hire a visibly pregnant woman. That is obvious. And so I did not want to have a gap on my resume, and I wanted to do something. And I felt that a bridging program would be my best bet. Uh, and I got the accommodation where, because I just had a baby 6 weeks before the bridging program started, I was allowed to take the entire course online before online learning became normal. And that was, I'm very appreciative to them because they made that accommodation for me, so I could look after my toddler and my infant at the same time. And then when my daughter was 6 months, I started an internship, but then the lockdown began. And then I knew that the internship wouldn't lead to a job, and I needed to get a job soon enough because obviously no one likes gaps on resumes. But having no Canadian experience would just push me to the bottom of the pile. And there were so many more people who were in the job market with loads of Canadian experience back then. This was a year ago. And I needed to build that Canadian portfolio of work because I work in the media and communications. As they say, show, don't tell. So I needed my work to show for itself, but I didn't have a Canadian portfolio. So I started volunteering for professional organizations, and I could do this only because of the lockdown. It was remote. Otherwise, I couldn't afford to send my kids to daycare, two of them, $3,500 a month to send two to daycare while my husband works to pay the rent and bills, and I couldn't go off to volunteer. So I was volunteering. Then I got myself a contract role with a PR agency, and and in this position I found a great mentor. My manager took a chance on me, a newcomer, an immigrant, and I have learned so much from her. And I built my network and I built my Canadian experience, and I learned so much from my manager. I could not have asked for a better manager. And so while I was also in this contract position, I have been interviewing, I have been networking, I have been volunteering, I've been doing all these things. And now I can say that I've landed a permanent full-time job, which I will be starting at the end of this month. So it is a good it's a good thing that I got it. And another thing is, I didn't have to take the first offer I got, because I was always interviewing for 4 to 5 roles at a time, and none of them led to something. And at this point, I was interviewing at 8 different roles, and I landed 3 offers, and I could
Wow, wow.
choose the one that worked best for me. And
Perfect. Yeah.
so this was something that I didn't expect, but when they say when it rains, it pours, and it actually
Mhm,
poured.
mhm.
And I could manage to do all of this because I faced the newcomer barriers, but I did not face the woman barrier. I have
I
a
will
very supportive husband.
I
He
will be
did
coming.
everything.
I will be coming to that,
Sure.
and we'll be talking a lot about that because I have specific questions that I want to put to Anjali and you as an inspiration and what my audience can take out from here. So, Gretchen, please go ahead with your newcomer story.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Gretchen, and just like Anjali, I'm also a mom. But my children are teenagers already, and unfortunately, they're not here with me right now. So, um, yeah, I have my background is in education and communications back home in the Philippines, where I come from, and I landed in Canada in 2019 and became a permanent resident in February 2020. So my journey is quite similar to Anjali, but in some aspects, it is different. I came here to reunite with my husband. And of course, as a mother, we want our children to be with us all the time because you know, we make sure that our family is intact and that everyone is well. And so my journey is like I came here to be with my husband, and I wanted to make sure that I am ready and I am financially stable so that I could support my two children and hopefully let them come over here and be with us. Ultimately, that's the goal. Yeah, so just like Angeli, I also did the first thing I did though was to connect with my Filipino community. I think that connecting with people and networking would give you a lot of insights of what journey these people have had, that you can learn from. And because of that, I got connected with a lot of services that are available out there for newcomers and even for women. I did also do volunteering after that. So I got an employment counselor. I did volunteering. I also did the bridging program. I guess not everyone is fortunate enough to have that ability and the time, right? Because for some people, their primary goal is to have financial stability, and we have to understand that. I feel that I have that advantage, but I used it to work to for me to be able to integrate myself in the Canadian society. So yes, through my volunteering and through my networking, and my mentoring, I was able to get connected with people. Um, I did the volunteering at a nonprofit organization, which led to a job. That was my first job. But as we know, when March hit, everything
Mhm.
closed down, right? So
Mhm.
I was let go. Unfortunately, I didn't last for too long. It was just like a 3 month a job, and so I was doing job searching during the time of the pandemic, and it was really very challenging. I guess the lesson that I've learned is that we need to set expectations, and we need to be able to organize how we want to get to where we want to go, because
Mhm.
it's a very organized and step by step process. And
Sure.
if we get distracted by all the other things, if we can't manage all the other things that come with being a woman, being a mother, we may not be able to get there. So
So
now I'm
yes.
working as a communication lead in a
Mhm.
school board, which is in line with my profession. And I'm very thankful that the organization gave me that opportunity.
So what I hear from all both of your stories is definitely that you have walked through a path of adversities, perseverance. You very well in your journey realized the importance of community building, volunteering, internships. Leading towards your first step in skill specific job, because touch wood, you both have landed
Mhm.
your skill specific job with good employers. And Anjali, as she said, that it was not just one offer, she had competitive offers. So the pathway that Anjali and Gretchen have introduced to you, these are unique path. Each newcomer's journey is very, very unique, but you can take the inferences from and the universalness from both Anjali's and Gretchen path, that you have to walk through certain tried and tested formulas, specifically network building and community building and volunteering, to get that step and foot in the door. I'm going to share the viewers who are joining me just now. You are watching Khatija, Anjali, and Gretchen in a newcomer women roundtable. I planned this roundtable as a result, of course, International Women's Day just happened yesterday, and we all have been on social media talking about the inequities and the disparities we all as women have been experiencing in terms of pay gaps, in terms of opportunities to climb up the corporate ladder, and more so being an underrepresented or a visible minority woman. It's much harder. Barriers are much harder, and numbers are much more mind-boggling. So I'll just share certain numbers with the viewers, and of course with my panelists as well. In a recent make and break study which was conducted jointly by Access and Trike Settlement Agency, these two are very, very renowned settlement agencies here in Canada. So they jointly carried out an immigrant specific research, and in that, quote unquote, they have mentioned that immigrants, especially recent immigrant and women, were among the hardest hit during the pandemic. I'll quote and unquote, immigrants, especially recent immigrants and women, were among the hardest hit by COVID-19. Now, this doesn't just mean people who are already in the workforce, immigrant women who are already in the workforce, but people who just landed at the time of COVID-19, or who have been exploring job search during COVID-19 opportunities, and them getting into that opportunities, they had to compete at par with other immigrant women, other immigrant men, and Canadian local talent over here. So we are not just talking about climbing up the ladder, but also getting that foot in the door, which is primary goal of a newcomer who comes over here. So already Anjali and Gretchen has talked about their experiences. Now I would love to know a little bit more in detail, and I'm throwing specific questions to you, Anjali and Gretchen. When we are talking about professional challenges, you have talked about your professional journey. You have shared a little bit of a snapshot of what really worked for you, but definitely no journey is without ups and downs. There are challenges. So I'm going to talk about few professional challenges. If you faced with them, what has been your experience about them? So when it comes to women role in family, and you both have mentioned that Anjali was expecting when she started her job search journey. After landing, Gretchen, you are a mom, your children are back home. So definitely you both have a role in a family. And Gretchen, right now you said that you joined your husband. So as a wife you have. So women generally in society are expected to assume caregiver role. That is the first thing that comes to mind, irrespective of which country you're hailing from, or which part of the society you are in. It is assumed, it is expected that women out of the family dynamics would take up the caregiving role. So I would start with Anjali, and then Gretchen, you can follow up in your situation, that being a woman in your family household while being in Canada, and with that purpose of you exploring your first job or path towards your first job in Canada, did you by default assume the caregiver role? And specifically after COVID, there has been homeschooling challenges because COVID just happened. Nobody planned for it. So since last year, did homeschool and financial responsibilities, you assumed the role, you took over it? So how it has been, and how home support have been for you? So Anjali, I would first give it to you, and then Gretchen.
So in my case, I've had tremendous support from my husband, and he understands the challenges that I have faced. Because for him to get a job, it was very easy. He did not have to go through even a tenth of the struggles that I've had to go through in terms of networking. Because in my industry, jobs are fewer, there are more people, and it's also about, it's not about whom you know, but it's also about who knows you and who knows your work. Here, a lot of people. Um, in India and in the UK, I had a very strong network. Here in Canada, I didn't know anybody. I didn't go to school here. I didn't work here. So I had to start building my network from scratch. And my husband knew the challenges that I had to go through. Have informational interviews, join professional organizations, volunteer, and put myself out there. And he picked up the tab for all the work that a woman is assumed to be supposed to do. So I can tell you that because of my husband's support, I can say that I think I have forgotten how to cook. I haven't cooked in the last 4 years, and both my kids are in diapers. By the way, just day before yesterday, I changed one diaper, but that was probably after 6 months.
Okay, okay.
So I think I can say that my husband has done a great job in taking the lead with the kids and with his job. He has successfully managed to retain his job through COVID, which is a good
Mhm,
thing. We had
mhm,
financial support, but
mhm.
he has allowed me to concentrate on the things that I needed to do to establish myself professionally, because I didn't have the job. He knew how important that was for me. So I
Great.
wouldn't say that I had to break any gender barriers.
Great to hear that you got family support who realized that that support will be so important to break those stereotypes and for your acceleration. So, Gretchen, same question to you. How did family role or family being a woman, taking up the roles, how did it impacted your journey? What were the unique challenges?
Yeah, well, as a background, I would understand and I can empathize with the caregiver role of a mother because I am the primary caregiver of my two children. So it's been like that for a number of years already. And having them away from me is really something very sad, and at the same time it pushes me to really work and do my best to make things happen for them. And I, for the caregiver role or for the mothering that I needed to do, being away has been a challenge. We have a time difference, and I needed to make sure that because of the COVID too, right? Everyone is very anxious. We have so much uncertainty, and my children are, we need to make sure that we are all mentally healthy. So I needed to do advising and making sure that I give them a lot of counseling. And in terms of the financial role, and because of being a single parent gave me that responsibility. Even when I got here in Canada, I wanted to make sure that I was financially stable. And so the first thing that I did was to really make sure that I can get in a job, in a job that is, that will be enough to make sure that when they come here, I'll be able to provide for their needs. My partner has been very supportive. And on top of that, I also had to make sure, as you mentioned, I came here to be with my husband. There's this dynamics of creating a relationship in time of a COVID era too, right? So it's a new experience for all of us. But I understand that I have friends who have had more difficult challenges as being a woman and being a mother. We have to understand the fact that a lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic, and so the reason why we had to compete with more people looking for jobs is because a lot of people lost their jobs and not a lot of jobs are available out there. And so it has become also very challenging for me to find that job. But through networking and through just organizing how I could get there, doing targeted resumes and getting advice from mentors, that just led the way for me to be able to land in my job right now.
Great. What I understand, and I take this as a silver lining when we face adversity, like home support, positive mindset, and taking up the challenges as they come in a flow is what I take as a silver lining from both of your stories. That yes, COVID did throw adversities on our faces, unplanned, and that really correlates with the mental health, specifically when your children are away. For in Gretchen's case, and Anjali expecting and doing her job search. So all of these are silver lining that home support, children support, positive mindset, and just being optimistic do really help when adversities strike, specifically women. We are by nature there to create, to make a social impact. So I think so we tend to have that growth mindset and to look at positive, but blessing in disguise when we have good home support, that it really is an icing on the cake. I would love to share a few numbers with my panelists and with my viewers over here, because these were quite mind-boggling numbers. Yesterday I was reading that today Canadian women, and I'm not talking about immigrant women, these are generic women numbers, that today Canadian women make 25% less than their male counterparts. Means that male and female are at par in terms of competition, in terms of skill set, but their women make 25% less, and over a course of time that equates to working of 10 years without pay. So these are some mind-boggling numbers. So these are some Canadian women numbers. So when we are talking about underrepresented or marginalized or women of color, women, just imagine these numbers will be much more hard hitting, and which would be much more mind boggling. So also, right now there are only 5 women executives in Fortune 500 companies. So that is another mind boggling number. So just imagine how a newcomer would have to go through. They have to face much more greater barriers, specifically when it comes to putting the foot into the corporate Canada and then accelerating it. So as an immigrant woman, getting into that first skill specific job itself is such a milestone, that we are competing with par competent immigrant men with no Canadian experience. So you are first competing with them, and then you are then competing with other levels of competition. So I would love to know from both of you, Gretchen, and probably this might take you to do a little bit of a self-reflection as well, that during your job search, while you were, let's say, initially you both said that you have done internships or some volunteer work. During your volunteering opportunities, because here in Canada, volunteering opportunities are also competitive. You have to apply just as if you applying for a job. You have to put up your resume, and in certain organization there can be a panel discussion if it's really competitive, and then they select you. So in your internship or pro bono or volunteering opportunity, at any point in time, did you feel unwelcomed or underappreciated, or did you feel that a challenging assignment came and there was a choice between two, and you felt that that opportunity was given to an immigrant man versus an immigrant woman? So just wanted to have a feeler that when you got the taste of working with local organization, either in volunteering or in your current job, did you feel that opportunity being passed on to another just because you were a newcomer woman? So I'll just first give it to Anjali and then Gretchen.
I don't think that I faced that issue. I don't think it was anything to do with gender, but the only thing about the internship, I can say that it was unpaid, and it really makes you feel devalued because, irrespective whether internship or whatever it is, I can't go and tell my landlord, you know, I'm. I'm living in your house for exposure, or I go and tell my hydro company saying that give me hydro, you will get exposure. Here it is about you'll get experience. Here it is about I still have bills to pay. So the only
Okay.
time it ever bothered me about an internship was about it being unpaid.
Okay.
But
Okay.
otherwise, I don't think I have not been passed over for anything because of gender.
Okay. Okay. So great to hear that. Yes, Gretchen, what had been your experience?
Yeah, for my volunteering, I don't think I've had direct experience with that disparity, but I think I could share with you because I've volunteered for as a community story, and this is for the Filipino communities Filipino women who work in the front line. So these are frontline workers,
Okay.
and we hear the stories of frontline workers who are and personal support workers who are, you know, being given more jobs than what they can handle, working extended or long hours, not being paid commensurate to what they're doing or the work that they put in. Those things, I am sure that these things are exist, and it is really very concerning to hear that as a woman, you don't really get all those opportunities that other women have. And we are also very conscious that we are, when I came here, I suddenly realized that I am a woman of color. Back home, you wouldn't feel that difference, and you wouldn't feel that you're different in a place because you're all the same. So when I came here, it was also like a self journey for me to find my place here in Canada and to understand what comes with being a woman and being a woman with color. And so I had to understand that to be able to navigate myself and to find courage to speak out and to do the best that I can as a person. And I think it's very important for immigrant women to understand that dynamic, that when they come to Canada, they have to understand that these things exist and there is a thing as a person with color. Because sometimes when I came here, I wasn't thinking of any of those ideas or even those thoughts. But when you come to understand these dynamics in a society, in a multicultural and a multi-diverse society, just like Canada, you would be able to position yourself in whatever situation you will be. So you would understand, for example, why people would perceive you to be as someone else, because there are existing stereotypes, there are existing traditional um, thoughts about, a group of people, with certain ethnic backgrounds, right? And these exist, and for me to be able to see that and to understand my space, I was able to stand up and be more confident and just speak your mind and just make sure that you'll be able to let people know that you exist and that you have these values and these skills to contribute to the Canadian society. So I guess that is one advice that I would give to immigrant women. Find your space, understand the dynamics of a multicultural society, and understand that the issues of people with color are indeed existing.
Beautiful, Gretchen. That leads to my second question, and it was related to bias, unconscious bias. We talked about women's role, women take assuming certain expectations expected from women. We talked about a little bit about newcomer woman experience. I would now talk to you both about, because since last year, specifically after Floyd's unfortunate incident, there has been an erupting debate um, around people of color, the systemic racism. And earlier, this topic was a little hush-hush topic. And when I think of, when I talk about people of color, immigrants is definitely a very, very important part when we talk about people of color here in Canada. And immigrant population makes a huge chunk of Canadian overall stats. And what I was reading in coming years, also immigrant, the government has increased the caps on immigrant as a part of economic recovery process. So being a woman of color, like you, we all are immigrant women, and then we are immigrant women of color. And you said that you gave beautiful advice. So being and now that everybody's talking about, I'm throwing this question to you again. You can self-reflect if you want to take some time. I can carry on with my experiences. Have you ever in your professional journey uh, experienced an unconscious bias? Sometimes we don't know, but because of the nurturing environment we have been brought up in, we don't realize, but there is a bias at the back of our end. And it impacts the decision. So at any point in time, being a woman of color, woman of color, newcomer woman, have you ever experienced, like for example, in an interview, probably you weren't given that opportunity, or somebody passed a remark? I'm just thinking of instances, under the carpet instances, which can be a result of an unconscious bias. So have you ever felt, being a woman of color, you have experienced an unconscious bias in any form while you're going out for an interview, any feedback given to you, any opportunity passed by you? So Anjali, I will first give it to you, and then Gretchen, you can answer this.
So in my case, this is the second time I'm immigrating in my life, the first time to the UK and now to Canada. So I had set pretty much realistic expectations about what to expect and how my journey would be. So for me, I wouldn't say that my bias, the bias that I have encountered is because of my gender. But when it comes to my color, yes, probably, because I, I'm not expecting to pick up where I left off professionally. But when I applied for junior positions, I was told that I was overqualified and I would get bored easily. And I've already done this before. And when I
Okay.
applied for roles that required experience, I was told that this is not Canadian experience. Or if
Okay.
the job I applied to was, say, at a bank, they would say, oh, you've never worked in a bank before. Or if it
Okay.
was an insurance company, you've never worked in insurance before. Or if it
Okay.
was CPG, you've never worked in that industry before. So
Okay.
for
Okay.
me, it was about that, either like too
Okay.
much experience or too little experience. And it was all about Canadian experience. If you don't
Okay. No
value
Canadian
my,
experience.
yeah, if you don't value
Okay.
my international experience, or you don't value my international education, it means that you don't value me.
Okay. Okay. So
And I
you
did
bas
take it personally.
okay, so you basically faced a no Canadian experience unconscious bias, and some people vocally, did anybody vocally told it to you, like, or you felt it from their behavior?
So at one particular interview, when I was talking about my experience, a person asked me, all these great things that you say that you have done, was anything of this done in Canada?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was like straight on my
Okay.
face. Another
Wow.
person asked me, do you have Canadian experience?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then I see job postings, minimum 2 to 3 years working with a Canadian organization. So I
Okay.
would not even apply to those jobs, because you know what, you're gonna tell me that first. So
Okay.
I would self reject before they would reject me.
Okay, that's interesting, Anjali. You like when I hear you, you basically took because you experienced in some unconscious way or through certain actions from past experiences. It stopped you. It acted that no Canadian experience myth in your head stopped you even for applying for qualified jobs. Um, so that is definitely one of a hindrance, I would say.
Uh, Only if the job posting had the word Canadian in it. Like some jobs said
Okay.
minimum 2 to 3 years of Canadian
Canadian
experience.
experience.
No,
Okay.
minimum 2 to 3 years of experience in a Canadian agency, Canadian
Okay.
organization. I would
Okay.
not apply
Okay.
to that, but I would definitely apply for roles,
Hmm.
and irrespective of whether it is Canadian or not, because I believe that my skills are transferable.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you did face some kind of an unconscious bias, not as a woman of color, but as no Canadian experience, which
Yes.
I hear from a lot of newcomers because I have been interacting with in past 2 years. So this is definitely an unconscious bias which exists. I can tell you, I have plethora of stories. Even my story is a part of it, where I faced rejection because of no Canadian experience, and they weren't very out loud. It was through the actions and certain reactions which made me feel that okay, my international experience is not valued. So now I'll go to Gretchen. What has been your experience of an unconscious bias, either as a person of color, sorry, or as experiences no Canadian experience?
Yeah, okay. So, as like Angeli, I've lived in another country, down under, for a couple of years, and I did experience some discrimination because of our color. There would be times where, okay, so this happened years ago, but I still remember it very perfectly as to this day. When it's as simple as picking the members of a team in a baseball team, just as simple as that. Like in a group of students, you would get to be chosen best among others who have among others who are also colored people. So these are, these are very small things, but when you magnify them and when you start understanding them, you would know what is the reason why this is happening. So because of those preconceptions, those biases that we've created,
Mhm,
those stereotypes that we know
mhm,
about
mhm,
people,
mhm.
that just causes a lot of uh, division. It's very divisive. It's it's not it does not encourage empathy, which is what we need right now to be able
Right.
to work together and to be able to get the most out of the potentials out of everyone, because we can never really fully achieve our potentials if we are not given that opportunity when other
Opportunities.
people gives you those barriers just because of preconceptions and just because of stereotypes. So I guess that's one experience that I will never forget. Here in Canada, I think when you start to understand, only when you start to understand that these things exist and to acknowledge that these kinds of things like unconscious bias or microaggressions, even like asking questions that are have hidden meanings or hidden
Yes.
motives, right? Only when you start to understand and acknowledge that these things exist will you know the reasons why you are rejected, or you will understand why there are barriers. And I guess the role of immigrant women is to put forward the agenda of inclusivity and diversity, and making sure that we create a space so that we can lift each other up.
Each other.
I've been very fortunate to have a number of women mentors. All the mentors I've had in my journey are all women. And I guess because we share the same lived experience of the immigration experience, of the journey of coming here, they were able to guide me and uplift me. And I guess that's one thing that we can do as women, is to make sure that we create these spaces. And I'm very thankful that you've created this space for us, Khadija. It's start for having these conversations that are necessary. We might be
True.
the easiest conversations to have, but they are necessary if we want to
They
be
are.
able to move forward.
Yes, Gretchen, I completely, three things I take out from you. Definitely the snowball effect of not getting the right opportunities, progressive opportunities in your career, irrespective of geography, whether it be Philippines, India, Pakistan, Dubai, or Canada. If you don't get those challenging opportunities or assignments, it's a snowball effect which affects overall your career progression. So that was one thing that we as women or as underrepresented, whether it be being a woman, a person of color, a newcomer woman, an immigrant woman, we these all are underrepresented groups. So as women, wherever you might be, the second thing I take out from you, that you need to know that this problem is there, and then understand why it is there, and then learn to voice it out in the right manner based on the cultural dynamics, because what you might communicate back in origin country might not be the way how it is communicated over here in Canada. So learn the workplace culture and communication dynamic and stand up for your right. Know that this problem does exist. Like specifically last year, it has been an awareness year, I would say, for underrepresented group, because people started having these uncomfortable conversations, not only in social media but in corporate boardrooms. So it has become easier for women or any underrepresented group to start speaking about that biases. Otherwise, earlier nobody spoke about it. So coming from you, know that problem is there, understand to voice it out, and understand to voice it out in local cultural concepts. So that is one thing I take out from you. And third is the importance of community building. As Gretchen said, that being in a like-minded group of people, whether it be women, whether it be person of color, immigrant women, pre-arrival immigrant women, people who have walked through that path or are walking to that path, can definitely add and does add motivation, inspiration, and guidance for you, specifically when you feel that you're not alone. There are other people who are experiencing the same thing, and you give motivation and inspiration and overall guidance. Really helps. So these are the three things that I take out from you on how you overcome any kind of an unconscious bias from any marginalized or underrepresented community. And those of you who are joining me right now, just letting you know, we are here, all three of us are immigrant women, and we are here in Newcomer Women Roundtable, where we are voicing out our professional journey experiences and challenges as an immigrant woman in Canada. And we are talking about different kinds of challenges, being a woman, being a person of color, any kind of an unconscious bias we have seen. So we all have unique experiences, and you can take motivation and guidance from us. And that is another one. You have children at home. You have children at home. You can say hi.
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 Okay. So, Anjali and Gretchen, I'll put up this last question to you, and then I'll speak to my son Wise here. I would want you both to give some suggestions, guidance, or any last, because we are now ending this up. Any last advice to immigrant women, what they should keep in mind? So, any top two tips or two advices. So, I'll first ask Anjali, and then Gretchen, you will follow while I listen to my son.
Sure. So, my advice would be to connect with the professional community because networking is very, very important. And my second piece of advice would be, integrate as soon as you come to Canada. Don't stick to your community. You did not travel so many thousands of kilometers away to stick to your bubble. So, integrate, learn new cultures, break out of your shell, and get to learn about different communities and different types of people, and that will make you more open minded.
So, yes, Gretchen.
Yeah, well, for me, the first thing that I would say is, as an advice to immigrant women, is that first of all, you really need to understand your place in this country. You need to be able to um, understand and know your identity. You have to build your own identity when you come here. This is not saying that you lose your identity, but to create your identity based on the new environment that we have, the new community and society that you have, and find your space and find your voice. The second one would be organize your plans. If you have goals, make sure that you organize them and you create a plan. You set timelines. That would include, uh, all the things that are said out there for job searching. You do free volunteering if necessary. You do a lot of learning. If you need to get additional education, go ahead. Do the bridging program, do your mentoring, but make sure that this is scheduled and this is very well planned. Give yourself a deadline. That way you will be able to also manage your finances and all the other elements that are surrounding you as a woman and as an immigrant. So be very organized, and I'm sure you'll get there.
Beautiful advices by Anjali and Gretchen. Thank you so much, both of you. This is one last question I ask. I know I have done a last question, but this is a bonus last question. How important has been LinkedIn for you both in community building, in connecting with opportunities? Because one thing that I see newcomer women, even immigrant, they don't realize how LinkedIn it works differently over here in Canada versus. So, Anjali, first to you, how important LinkedIn has been for you, and then Gretchen.
So LinkedIn has been very important to me because for me, I knew I wanted to have informational interviews. So I would look at people in whose position I want to be, and I would connect with them and ask them for a short call if I could learn more about their journey and if they could help me, tell me about how they got to where they are. So I could take some examples about their successes, their failures, and I could apply them to my own journey. So I have found all these people on LinkedIn, and I feel it is very important. And also, building your own brand on LinkedIn is important.
Super. Now, Gretchen.
Yeah, well, building your LinkedIn profile might be very daunting at first. This is not regular culture for many of us who are not here in Canada. To me, it was a challenge. I didn't feel like I needed it at first, but when I got to know how important it is, then I had to make sure to build my own profile. So just go beyond that barrier that you have about uh, publishing what you've accomplished, because this, in some countries this is not a norm, like telling people what you've done, your accomplishments. But this is Canada, and this is how people will be able to measure your skills and the value that you can bring in a company. So do build a very good LinkedIn profile, and it takes a lot of you can get advice to build your profile, and there are a lot of advices out there to do that. It's been very important to me because I've met all my mentors, met all my network on LinkedIn. And just like Angeli, I also did informational interviews, and that led from one opportunity to another. So, yes, LinkedIn is a very important networking and job searching platform.
Thank you both, Anjali and Gretchen. Your being over here, you're sharing your experiences, answering a little bit of self-reflected, uncomfortable questions, but definitely that has been an inspiration for a lot of newcomer women who are listening to you right now. We sometimes feel our story is not that inspiring, but believe you me, talking to you, both of you have inspired so many women who would be listening not only live but in a replay broadcast as well. So thank you both of you for being so open, for sharing your vulnerabilities, for sharing what really worked for you. So thank you both of you. If you want to connect with Anjali or Gretchen, you can see their names over here. You can connect with them, reach out to them on LinkedIn. As both of them said, LinkedIn is a beautiful platform to do your community building as a newcomer, immigrant, woman, or a man. And you can, the beauty is such that you can do that all at a pre-arrival stage as well. So do that, connect with Anjali and Gretchen, and reach out to them. Also, you can reach out to me. So I'll end this newcomer woman roundtable with a very, 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 very positive note. As my both inspiring panelists have shared inspiring advice, I'm a true believer in the mindset, and I see Anjali and Gretchen both talking about their journeys and how positive and how growth mindset that they have displayed in their journey despite of adversity. um, even without COVID, they both had their own unique challenges. Gretchen has left over her children back home. Anjali came with children, and she was expecting. So they had their own challenges, and then COVID happened, which brought another sorts of challenges. So despite of all these challenges, newcomer women are very, very resilient. We can persevere a lot. So believe in yourself, believe in your power of being a woman. And as I said, being a woman, we are here to create to create something for a greater social impact. So believe in yourself, have a growth mindset. Whatever challenges are thrown your face, take it with positive attitude and mindset, and take that adversity as an experience to evolve in a land of fear, in a land of unknown. When you are in a land of unknown, you learn something only when you get uncomfortable. So it adds to your skill set. So with this, I will leave now. Those of you who are joining, seeing this in a broadcast, do leave your questions below. The questions do come in to me, and I will definitely love to answer any question, even in my team replay, whoever watches it on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, Newcomers to Canada Facebook group. That is it from my side. Bye, Anjali. Thank you again, and have a great day ahead. Bye.
Bye.
You
Have a great day.
You too.
too.